Nanfu Wang is the director of the documentary In the Same Breath, which details how the Chinese government turned pandemic cover-ups in Wuhan into a triumph for the Communist Party. I'm Denton Davidson for Gold Derby, and Nanfu, you were well aware of how whistleblowers and that sort of people speaking out publicly against the Communist Party in China can be targeted. What made you want to charge forward with this film anyways?
Well, actually, the film shows how in both China and the U.S. that how people criticize the government, criticize the response could be targeted. Although it was a shocking thing that only revealed to me by March. And when I started making this film in January, when the outbreak first started in Wuhan, um, it was driven by a very deep, I think at that time, outrage and sadness, and seeing what people were going through in Wuhan and what the government was telling the world. And it was very quickly that I discovered that there is a huge discrepancy, the lack of transparency, and in fact, the deliberate misinformation and disinformation from the government. So to me, at the time, I wanted to make a film because I wanted the world to be able to see the real reality in Wuhan. And as I was making the film, and shortly after that, by March, the outbreak reached to the US. As somebody who always had an idealistic vision of what the US stands for, at that time, I was really, I think, shocked and also being confronted with this new reality that made me asking myself, what did I not know about the US and what the democracy in the US really represented and what's going on here? And those questions became the driven question for the film to answer. And that became the theme of the film, how both governments in China and the US shaped the narrative to the pandemic.
Yeah, and the footage you have was taken by various people who admittedly had different reasons for wanting to work with you. But what you end up with is incredible. Do you know even how many hours of footage you actually had compiled, and then how long does that take to edit that down to the final product that we see? Because that just seems mind-boggling to me.
So in the digital editing world, it was interesting because I never knew how many hours. It's like I never counted, but it's like 25 terabytes of footage. And we had 20 cinematographers filming, more than 10 of them in China and all the states, multiple states in the US. And we were filming nonstop. And the editing process was also simultaneously as the shooting was happening. So we built a platform where cinematographers could upload their footage the same day when they filmed it. And within hours, I would receive the footage and we will be just editing into scenes. And the editing took place from February, till December. And that was also the same time that we were filming as well.
And there's a heartbreaking footage of a father visiting his son. That's one of the scenes that really stood out to me. But he mentions that his son was infected in December of 2019, a month before the outbreak was announced. Is that when alarm bells sort of went off for you in terms of thinking something isn't exactly right in terms of the timeline and what we're being told?
I discovered that something was wrong in January. And I think like a lot of people, that in December early stages when the government said everything's fine, and in China, which was when they punished the doctors who alarmed people that something was going on. We didn't know that at the time. And by January, when I noticed that the government was censoring information on the internet, that's when we went to look for documents, information, people who have gone through it, to piece together when the government knew the information and when they discovered the virus and how much they knew. And quickly, we realized that they had known it. at least in December, if not earlier. And those are from a private lab who tested the virus and sequenced it on December 26th. And a clinic who, we got a lot of the surveillance footage in the clinic. The clinic owner had the same patients in December, and the clinic owner tested positive on January 1st, and none of those information was known to the public.
And then you have some interesting comparisons to how America responds to the virus when it gets here, which is not much different than how China responds, unfortunately. And there's a lot of people out in the streets that didn't take it seriously. But you said you could relate to that, which I found interesting because your own mother tried to warn you about what was going on and you brushed it under the rug because the CDC was saying what it was saying. Can you talk about that and, sort of that trust that was then lost in the CDC and various health organizations that keep sort of shifting where they want people to go?
Yeah, so in the film we've seen, and I think if people still remembered in March, February, and January, from the government and the CDC, there were a lot of changing guidance and policy. And all the way till March, we were told that there is no need to wear a mask when you're outside or when you just go out. Mask doesn't stop it. And that was when my mom, who lives 300 miles away from Wuhan and who experienced it in January, and called me and I said, hey, wear a mask. And I told her, look at the scientists in the U.S., which I trusted. And they said no. And of course, by late March, it was revealed that none of those was correct. And later, when I interviewed a lot of healthcare workers in the U.S., what surprised me was how early they had raised questions. They tried to sound alarm, and the treatment that they had received was either being fired or being punished, similarly as the healthcare workers in China. And those started becoming the themes and the patterns that I had seen in the two countries' response to the outbreak, which both prioritized preserving its image over protecting people and public health.
Well, Nanfu, congratulations on this harrowing and eye-opening documentary. Best of luck this awards season. In the Same Breath is available to stream on HBO Max. And Nanfu, thank you again for speaking with Gold Derby today.
Thank you.